Hello folks and welcome to my video. The topic of this video is gonna be after first year of Trump administration, kind of like a step back and reflect what has happened so far, what we all have witnessed during those 12 months, 12 plus months, and more importantly, what do we think? From my personal opinion, I want to share my opinions, and if you do contribute to what I will be talking about on this video, I'll be really happy to see your comments and opinions. So let's start. Okay, like I said, Trump has been in power now more than 12 months, and what is it that what kind of changes that we have noticed, we have witnessed? Everybody in the world globally witnessed that a lot of kind of crazy things. That includes, for instance, Greenland, Canada, Venezuela, what's happening recently in Mexico. It's almost civil war situation going on with the Mexican government fighting against the cartel and Trump's role in this. And the NATO, the message that Trump has been given to European Union, European nations, and NATO alliance, and kind of withdrawing his support with the American support outside of the equation of the NATO. That's a whole different ball game. And Europe has been extremely concerned with all these major changes. Then they're kind of trying to define and redefine overall European security policies, and they put, it looks like, in the center, the epicenter, as a security threat, the Russian state. So a whole lot of things. Obviously, it's impossible to touch base all these events, all these things covered in one video. It would be literally impossible. But I just want to kind of, in my head, that's what I meant to actually share with y'all, to share kind of, what is actually happening, especially from the perspective of mega level changes in overall global politics and global policies. The picture that I have in my mind is this. I'm basically drawing parallels and kind of finding a lot of similarities between what's happening right now and what was happening prior to the First World War. As you know, First World War started in 1914 and lasted for 4 years. But prior to that, what events led up to First World War, and then what events again led up to Second World War, which started in 1940 and ended in 1945, which is another very significant milestone. Why? Because after the end of the Second World War, 1945, about 80 years, a new world order was established then, with all these current institutions that we're all familiar with: the United Nations, the World Bank, IMF, European Union, all these, and also especially the narrative that we're all accustomed to since the end of the Second World War was the democracy and human rights and all these, right? Looks like the period which was established by the end of the First World War, which was about 80 years ago, is now almost completely coming to a halting, grinding end. But the problem is the new world order. This big phrase, right? The new world order. The new world order. The name is there, the concept is there, but it hasn't been established yet. The New World Order does not have yet its institutions, its organizations, its legal structure, its financial structure, or kind of our national alliances. It doesn't have any of those things, so just a name. So basically, the world is now in a transition period, which is very, very tough, right? It's not easy at all. And it looks like it's going to be going for a while, and it could be quite a while, until that so-called New World Order can be truly established and can be functional, hopefully, to serve the New World Order for the nations participating in that, obviously. The reason why I was drawing parallels between what's happening now and what was happening during the end of the 19th century, leading up to the First World War, and then later on Second World War, let's look at what was happening. Up until the end of the 19th century or beginning of the 20th century, especially in Europe, that Europe then was the epicenter of the world and ruling the entire world. The global power was in Europe. And a few European empires, such as British Empire, Austrian-Hungarian Empire, France, Spanish Kingdom, these nations were actually the ruling bloc of the world. And what happened was by the beginning of the First World War, the structure, as I just described briefly, as imperial structure of the European powers, which is the global powers, completely shattered. What happened was the Austrian-Hungarian Empire collapsed. The Russian Empire, Russian Tsars, collapsed. And the Ottoman Empire collapsed. And in their places, what happened was the nation states were established. So the nation state is actually the concept that started with the end of the First World War. Nation state, actually the nationalism, which was fueling all the events leading up to the collapse of the empires and the establishment of the nation states. So that was actually the New World Order. And fast forward to 1940, Germany established the Nazi regime. 10 years, again, leading up to 10 plus years actually, leading up to the beginning of the Second World War. And then Germany started attacking all its neighbors, all her neighbors in Europe and beyond, including Russia, right? And that started the drastic and significant changes which led up to the establishment of the New World Order, which has been the last 80 years that we've been all aware and living in it. And that order is now effectively coming to an end. So how do I tie this? How do I relate all these things to what's happening? At the start I said, I was kind of step back and reflect the past 12 plus months of Trump administration. How am I supposed to kind of correlate these events? That's the intent of this video. If you notice, first off, these are kind of anecdotal things, but I think important. If you go back to previous American presidencies, such as, for instance, George Bush the Senior, when he started the first Iraq War in 1993, what was he saying? You remember? He was talking about human rights and democracy. He was saying Saddam Hussein invaded Kuwait. We're not going to let this happen. It's a violation of human rights and democracy. We're going to go into Iraq and bring democracy to Iraq. And then fast forward to 2003, Bush Jr., he started the second Iraq War, right? And what was he saying again? Same narrative. He was talking about the democracy and human rights, right? He was going to bring democracy to Iraq, to the Middle East. Sometimes a kind of funny way of saying that, some people were saying Americans were delivering democracy to the desert in the Middle East. It became a joke, right? Americans talking about bringing democracy. Stop there. There's a huge danger in that. Okay, that was the epicenter, of the common expression. The common expression was America was going to do whatever things it needs to do, obviously, for American interests, but they were kind of covering that up, right, with democracy and human rights stuff. Everybody knows that, but it's how the narrative was. Well, fast forward to Trump. Trump is not even saying, not even using those kinds of phrases. He's not even using that kind of language. He's not even using that kind of... He is totally and completely and entirely using a different narrative and rhetoric. What was he saying? What is he saying? When he talks about Venezuela, he was not talking about democracy and human rights. He was not saying Venezuelan President Maduro, he was violating the Venezuelan people, he was killing the Venezuelan people, violating human rights, so we're going to go ahead and stop him. He wasn't saying that. He was saying this: hey, Maduro, I'm going to come and get you. And I'm going to get your resources. Oil. Venezuela has $17 trillion oil. That's what he did. He went in there. He captured Maduro with his wife, brought the United States to put him in jail. And did anyone say anything about that? Internationally, I mean, there's International Court of Crime, right? ICC. Did they say anything about it? Or any other civil organizations around the world, within the United States or around the world, did they say anything? No. He was talking about, Canada, right? He was talking about making Canada as a 51st state. And he's talking about, capturing Greenland. Either offering money and buying it, or if not, maybe by force. There's a lot of European talking heads talking about it and making comments and stuff. That's expected, but effectively, there is nobody who can actually stop him from doing this. What I'm trying to say is this: we're at the really new junction. We are at the very different and potentially extremely dangerous junction. It's almost like this. There is no order in the New World Order. This is kind of why I imagine the picture in my mind. There is no order. Whoever has the power can get away with whatever he wants to do. If Trump wants to get Greenland, he can talk about getting Greenland. Greenland has a lot of, I'm not going to get into that, there's a lot of details. Greenland has significant strategic importance for the United States. In the history, U.S. governments made at least 2 attempts to basically control Greenland by money, even by force. That didn't happen. But Trump is working on it. Again, especially in our current age, Greenland has a lot of strategic importance for the United States, but that's besides the point. I'm not going to talk about this. Similar thing, Canada. I mean, Canada geographically is a larger place than overall continental United States. Has a lot of natural resources, and I can see why Trump is talking about making Canada as a 51st state. In fact, if he does that, I live in Minnesota. Basically you're bordering to Canada, right? So basically we can start from driving, from here. We can go through the 51st state, go to Alaska. It's all America, United States of America, right? Interesting. So he changed the name of Gulf of Mexico to Gulf of America, which was a big, huge deal. It's not just a funny thing. It's just not for, kind of populism. I know it sounds like it. It looks like it. But it also has a lot of significant historical importance. So, all these changes are telling me something very, very, mega levels huge going on. And then, I was curious. I basically downloaded and I tried to read like 300 plus pages of the Project 2025. A lot of provisions of that documentation, and it's too long, and I only try to read the sections of it that I would be personally interested. For instance, what's happening with the CIA and FBI, the structuring of the National Department of Defense, now Department of War, and immigration policies, and all these things. And I wanted to kind of understand all the changes that are basically explained and described on those pages. And what I feel like, I was keeping actually so many days I was keeping that document open on my computer so I can go back and forth and kind of look at it. And I realized that what Trump was doing, his actions, for instance, for DEI, diversity, inclusivity, no, diversity, equity, and inclusivity, DEI, or related similar other changes, policy changes that he was applying, were actually almost verbatim, word by word, were taken from that documentation, that Project 2025, which is entitled, the entire 922 pages book was entitled as The Conservative Promise to American People. It was published by the Heritage Foundation. Those of you who are interested in those, you know the Heritage Foundation and its background. It's going back actually decades back, and there's lots of thinking hats came together and created that documentation, those policies. Basically, it's almost like a manual. It's almost like a handbook. This is my understanding. It's almost like a manual driving a lot of decisions. A lot of decisions that Trump administration has been taking is kind of backed by that documentation and its provisions of it. So I don't believe that Donald Trump is sitting in his chair or just waking up in the morning and all of a sudden thinking, okay, today I decided to go take over Venezuela, or tomorrow I'm going to make Canada 51st state. It kind of looks like it. I know that is he looks very what is the word, kind of populist leader. He says one thing now today, and then tomorrow he changes totally opposite things. It appears to be like this, but again, I kind of don't see it that way. I'm saying that Trump administration and Trump himself has been basically governing based on very calculated long-term policies, and that's why I use the term, the example I use, not example, the Project 2025, to kind of solidify my example. The long-term goals, like the conservative policy to American people, that title of that documentation says a lot. So, for instance, that we cannot even talk about this without talking about the immigration policies, the changes, the huge changes in immigration policies, and especially ICE. Me myself, being in Minnesota and firsthand, excuse me, witnessing what ICE has been doing in the state of Minnesota, especially in Minneapolis area. There are 3,000 ICE officers, ICE and Customs Patrol and other federal agents altogether, 3,000 of them. Although recently, pretty much, they withdrew so many of them. I think there is some still, some activity going on, but nothing like, was like when they killed Rene Nicole Gut and also Alex Preddy. So that was like the highest, the maximum level of the ICE activity, that what I call is the government-sanctioned murders of those two people. Not only those two people, I mean, we're talking about two people who were killed. It's obviously extremely important. But we also should realize that in addition to those two people who were killed under the broad daylight without having any kind of reason, just cold blood, on the streets of Minneapolis, while they were exercising their First Amendment rights of protesting and nothing else. They were not resorting any kind of violent activities, any kind of violation. There are lots of people who were basically detained and stayed in detention centers. So far in the year of 2025, and also this year, 2026, up until now, I think, if I'm not mistaken, at least 36 people died in the ICE, in the custody of ICE, in those immigration detention centers. 36 people died in their custody. These are only the number of deaths. How about the people who were seriously injured? That's hundreds of people. And when I'm saying seriously injured, it's not like a few bruises here and there. We're talking about concussions and stuff like that. Everybody saw, for instance, that woman from Minneapolis who was disabled by ICE agents. She was dragged out of her car. She was yelling that she was disabled, and basically pulled out of her car, and she was dragged on the road by ICE agents. All these incredible amount of images that we saw, that the violence truly that was almost sanctioned and okayed by government. This tells me something else. This tells me that this administration, Trump administration, is here they're making a statement. That's what I'm trying to say. These are also not necessarily kind of happening in a haphazard, just randomly. I think there are reasons behind that, and those reasons are, part of them at least, is giving a message to American people saying that America is not the same America anymore, and what we say happens, what we say goes. By the way, I want to tell you this. I'll be honest with you. I voted for Trump. Why did I vote for Trump? Because I wanted to see, one, stopping the illegal immigration during the Biden administration. Close, I don't know exact numbers, 15 to 20 million people, I'm going to say, give and take, were allowed into this country, unvetted completely. And that was to me 100% unacceptable. Yes, this is a nation of immigrants, and myself as an immigrant. I'm a Turkish-born person. I'm a naturalized United States citizen. And I am, from the day when I was legal, and I believe the law of the land. I respect the law of the land, and I do respect not only the law of the land, and also the culture of the land. Immigrant person should, if he's coming or she's coming here, first has to understand that this country doesn't owe them anything. You choose to come here, like I did. I did not expect anyone to help me. I didn't hold government responsible, give me handouts. I went to school, I improved myself, and I found jobs, and I'm still working and paying taxes and assimilate into the culture. I'm not saying necessarily forget about your own language. I never forgot my language. I could speak fluently Turkish. But to survive in this country legally as a contributing, law-abiding citizen, this is what I think should be expected from an immigrant. But 15 to 20 million people, all of a sudden they were brought in here in about 4 years. 4 years, bringing 15 to 20 million people is incredible political act. That many people cannot be assimilated into the American culture in a reasonable period of time. It's impossible. What happened was lots of crisis. I'm not going to touch base that. You all know that. So, yes, I'm still against illegal immigration. Person can come here and basically go through all the legal procedures and avenues, complete and satisfy all the legal requirements of immigration, and then and only then can start planning, establishing and starting a new life for himself, herself, or for his or her children or grandchildren. That's the appeal of America. People come here to start a new life. That's why I came here. I came here as a student. I've been here in this country now 38 years. And I feel I owe to this country because this country gave me a lot. So that was the reason why I voted for Trump. And two, after especially seeing the ridiculous acts of all this DEI, all this LGBTQ craze, up to levels that I was considering completely and purely political, to destroy certain value systems, I thought that was unacceptable as well. So I voted for Trump. But I was disappointed, on the other hand, after seeing what ICE was doing in Minneapolis. I said, I was thinking to myself, yes, I think illegal immigrants needs to be captured, and they have to go through a legal process, and the necessary arrangements need to be made. If they need to be deported, they should be deported, but not like this. The way I see myself is, it's like this. You got a big, huge jackhammer in your hand, and you're trying to basically kill mosquitoes. Looking back, what Barack Obama did during his 8 years of presidency, I think he was called the king of what was the term they were using? The president of immigration, president of deportation, something like that, right? He deported how many people? 4 or 5 million people, maybe more. And we didn't hear anything, right? No noise, no nothing. Just this is the number. These are the facts, numbers. Well, what we're seeing today here is, on the basically broad daylight in the middle of the street, and somebody who was just exercising his First Amendment right was being killed. That's unacceptable. That's the part I call dangerous. That's the part I stop and think, hey, there's something. There's a message in this, and the message is now Trump is saying this is a different America. It's almost like dictatorship. So that is what I meant when I said at the beginning of this video that I'm going to stop and step back and reflect of the past 12 months, especially recently. Just a few days ago, Trump gave his State of the Union speech, right? And prior to that, Mark Rubio, he was in Germany. He was in Munich. It was European Security System, excuse me, meeting, conference. And the gist of his speech was unbelievable. The core message of Mark Rubio's message that he gave to the European leaders in the security system, all the people who are responsible with the European security system, was incredible. So the gist of it was this. America was still being a superpower, is challenging the multipolarization of the world. So what's going on? Let's look at that. This is really the global level, the highest level of picture. Since the end of the World War II, America has been the one and only one power in charge in the world that we've been living since the end of the Second World War. After they won on second fronts, on the Pacific and Atlantic, fronts, and beating the Nazis and also beating the Japanese, they became the de facto, by default, power in charge of the world. And then recently, especially the rise of China, last 10 years or so especially, and it's at an accelerating rate, the challengers were coming up, especially Chinese challenge. And everybody's talking about the multipolar instead of single power like America. Now the world power, world balance will be multi. But what I understand is, especially when you listen to Mark Rubio's speeches, America, especially the Trump administration, is not buying this argument, this narrative. They're not believing in this, and they're actually ready to challenge it. Challenge anything about the multipolarization of the world. Now what Trump is saying is, the Western Hemisphere, we're going to be in charge of the Western Hemisphere. Looks like he's accepting this multipolarization, so he's like saying, okay, America, we're going to be in charge of the entire Western Hemisphere, and China can be in the Eastern Hemisphere. But, still, whether that's going to be the way or not, only history is going to show us and tell us. The thing is still looks like Mark Rubio was telling the European nations, like, let's get together and join our forces, almost like, let's go back to the old days of colonization. In short, we have power, we have strength, we have the means. We can go ahead and again recolonize, not decolonize, but recolonize the world, and get all the resources that we need, that we think we need. Those are like, start from oil, rare elements, whether they're in Ukraine or Greenland or Africa or Australia, wherever. He was saying, that's the message he was given, really. If you listen to the Munich Security Conference that Mark Rubio, just search on YouTube, you'll find it. If you listen carefully, you're going to get the same. You're going to hear the same message. That was actually a very risky message, in my opinion. It is one thing; it can happen, it may or may not happen. But I'll tell you what, the direction is very dangerous. So we are going into a new world order, and it looks like all these international organizations, United Nations, all these democracy, and the structures, the institutions that they've been established since the Second World War, end of Second World War, looks like they don't care about those anymore, and they're almost becoming irrelevant, and the new system will be, in very rough terms, in very brief, simple terms, whoever has the power gets to go on. It's not important. The ideologies are not important. The principles are not important. Those organizations and institutions, such as the United Nations, based on philosophies and institutions, the principles, right? They're irrelevant. What matters is, I got power. I need this. You got it. I'm going to get it from you. This is the New World Order. Or at least this is how I see it. So this is the part that I wanted to share with you, especially looking back. That's why I started saying the first year of Trump administration. And I believe after the next 3 years and the next elections, I still, kind of looking at and reviewing all these things, in my opinion, J.D. Vance will continue as the next president, if not him, somebody like him, with his mindset or similar mindset. And this ideology, this mindset that I just tried to describe, again, starting with the Project 2025 and, the current description I just gave you, will continue. At least look at it this way. Democrats in America today have absolutely no leadership, and they are farthest from giving a strong and net and solid, clear message to American people. Democrats are trying to be everything to everybody, and they basically can't be anything for anyone. They almost are irrelevant. Yet, on the other hand, whether you like Trump or not, I don't care. It doesn't matter. But one thing you got to agree with me on that is this. Trump is given super solid, clear, and net messages. He's not babbling. You might think he is. He's not babbling. He's using very simple English, right? He's talking like a very simple English. He's talking to somebody with a, grade school education maybe. But everybody's getting his messages, and he's not babbling. He's not beating around the bush. He's saying, I'm going to come and get you, Maduro, and he's getting that. Look at the war in Mexico now. The Mexican government and Mexican military against Mexican cartels. Why do you think it started? Sheinbaum, Mexican president, was basically being pressed by Trump so hard. Trump was telling her this, look, either you go ahead and fix this problem, the cartel problem, or I'm going to send my military and fix that problem. This is unacceptable to Sheinbaum, the Mexican president. Why? Because imagine that. In other countries, our military is coming into your country to conduct a war. That is 100% utter and complete violation of national sovereignty. That's why it was unacceptable, and she decided to start a war. As much as she was not feeling ready for war, she had to start, because the other option was Trump was going to come and invade. That's what the option was. So to kind of eliminate, to stop, to kind of calm down Trump and saying, hey, Trump, I get it. Stay there, don't come here. I'm going to take care of it. And she started, and actually they killed the very famous, the very big guy in that, one of the biggest cartel had. Recently, they've been trying to kill him. I forgot his name. El something, El Macho, El Chacho, something like that. They killed him after they've been trying to kill him, catch him, and kill him 20 years. Now they did that. Why was that? Trump was getting hard on Mexican President Sheinbaum, because of the fact that the fentanyl that was coming from Mexico or through Mexico to the United States in the past decade, I think. 1.5 million Americans lost their lives. 1.5 million Americans lost their lives because of fentanyl. And when you look at the numbers, annual deaths, which was averaging about 85,000 Americans were losing their lives because they're using the fentanyl, those number of deaths were not even comparable to previous decades narcotic usage. It was always in the case, always. But nothing like this. The number of deaths were absolutely not acceptable. And Trump said, we're going to fix this problem. We're going to stop the flow of fentanyl coming through Mexico to United States. So was the message clear, net and clear to the Mexican president, Sheinbaum? Well, it's got to be that she started the war that she's been basically dreading. Because, it's Mexican government, entire state is almost run by the narcotics. And she had to start extremely difficult war, which she did. She had to, because she was forced by Trump. She got the message clear and loud and clear, right? That's what I'm talking about. Democrats cannot ever even imagine this kind of impact anywhere, anytime in the world. They only babble. They only babble just like Kamala Harris babble. That she says things that they make fun of, her speeches on YouTube videos. You can find it easily. That she tries to say a lot of things. She tries to sound smart, and she says nothing. That's what Democrats act. That's why they lost it, and that's why they're going to lose again. Democrats are not even standing a chance to win the next election. I know they're kind of going like this for the upcoming midterm. This year, 2026, November 2026, that Trump's approval rates are going down. The ICE operations in Minneapolis contributed a lot to that, which I agree with that. I mean, he was not doing it right. But it's not going to change the course. It's not going to change the course of history. Because again, Democrats are good at babbling and crying and giving emotional speeches or whatever, but they say nothing. As crass as Trump talks, he gives a goddamn clear message. And those messages are always getting hurt. Look at Iran. Those 5 stealth fighters, they took off from Missouri, flew all the way to Iran. They knew their, targets, bombed those targets, every one of them. All those nuclear, facilities, the missile launchers, whatever. Destroyed them and utterly completed them, annihilated them, and he came back. Was the message taken clearly? I think so. That's what I'm talking about. Thank you very much for listening to me.